Ladies and gentlemen, I am back. I have returned. Uh, wow, it's been a month already. I have stopped making any reviews because I had to study for the ultimate final exams, and now I'm back and I am broken. But that doesn't stop me from doing album reviews, and today I will do the review of the most talked about album of the year so far, and that is Fiona Apple with Fetch the Bolt Cutters. So, Fiona Apple is a very legendary and popular singer songwriter who releases an album once in 12 million years, and 2020 just so happens to be one of those years, and Fiona Apple dropped Fetch the Bolt Cutters. Now, what's really special about this album is that, of course, even I was anticipating this album. I mean, everyone in the world is anticipating this album because Fiona Apple is a great singer songwriter. If you can recall Fiona Apple's last album, The Idler Wheel and blah 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 blah, ended up in my top 100 albums of the decade list. Actually, it's in the top 20 of the decade, I think, and very well deserving so. Actually, I don't think it's top 20. I think it's top 25 or something, but still, that is a fantastic album. We have tracks like Hot Knife, which is raw, strange, kooky, intense, but full of personality and flavors. One of my favorite singles of the decade. Of course, we have Every Single Night, which is a slow ballad but with very powerful lyrics and amazing performance. And even before, in the 90s, Fiona Apple had dropped a lot of fantastic singles like Paper Bag and Criminal, and her speech in the MTV Awards saying that the world is bullshit and that we should not idolize celebrities is, I think, one of the better speeches in the history of MTV Awards. And now she finally dropped her fifth LP, Fetch the Bolt Cutters, finally. Everybody's going crazy about this album. But I couldn't review this album, of course, because I had to study. But a very famous music review site, Pitchfork, gave this album a 10 out of 10. And that is a huge deal because they only give out 110 per decade. And that is in the start of that decade, with 2000 being Radiohead's Kid A, which I think is totally deserving, and then Kanye West's My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy in the year 2010, which I think is, I guess, reasonable because it's a really great album, even though I personally don't think it's perfect. And then they give a 10 to this album, Fetch the Bolt Cutters, which stirred a bit of a controversy, but most people also thought it was pretty well deserving because it's a really great album. And yeah, let's dissect this album track to track. First of all, instead of sounding more mainstream and conventional, this album actually sounds way more kooky and zany and experimental. More idiosyncratic, definitely. More intense bits. This album almost sounds like a continuation of the Hot Knife track that I really, really loved back in the Idler Wheel, with its really raw, kooky, all over the place percussion and the layered vocal harmonies, intense, expressive vocals. Uh, yeah, it appears that Fiona Apple has upped her eccentricity on this album as well. Almost feels like in a Tom Waits style, and I believe that Fiona Apple is pretty familiar with his work as well because obviously he is one of the bigger influences on this album. And I'm not going to lie, this album actually started off really fantastically with the first track, I Want You to Love Me, which is a brilliant opening for the album. It's a humble opening. It has a bit of a nice drum machine, and we have some really nice, clean, friendly elegant piano sort of climbing up very angelically, and with Fiona Apple's very humble vocals. And then as the track moves on, it gets crazier, more and more intense. The vocals get more and more unsettling, and it just gets more and more animalistic. I really love the vocals as well. I know time is elastic. That line really hit. And the way the song ended is crazy. Fiona Apple just transformed into a dolphin and just bursted into high notes and vibrations. It's actually kind of impressive, and I'm glad it didn't last for that long because otherwise it'd be annoying. So it's just enough to last a strong impression at the end, but not enough to be annoying. And I thought that's pretty nice. The second track is also pretty fantastic. It's called Shameika with a very popular hook. Shameika said I had potential. Bum 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 bum. And it's a great song as well. This song is actually about a story in Fiona Apple's past when she was dealing with a bunch of bullies, and then there's this person called Shameika who, even though was kind of harsh towards her, but she kind of got through her and said that Fiona had potential. So I guess it kind of stuck in Fiona Apple's mind, and she had to write a song about Shameika. And I love this song. There are multiple parts to this song that I really enjoy. Of course, I really love the show-stopping, suddenly simplistic chorus. The wild, jumbly pianos are cartoony, yet chaotic and fantastic. The fun chants are really cheeky and sassy. I also really like that after the halfway point of the track, we get this minimalistic drum and bass blues section, which is really nice and groovy, and overall a fantastic single, one of the best of the year so far. And then the album sort of has a bit of a nosedive with the title track, which I don't think it's really all that great. It's a bit of a low-key track with a really quiet bass, some odd rhythms. I do like the talk sung vocals on this track, the VIPs and the PYTs. They add a lot of personality to the track, in my opinion, and at first it does feel like a really calming, jazzy piece, but afterwards, after the hook, it just turns stale. There just isn't enough dynamic or progression to the track. And we also have the track Under the Table. I love the lyrics on Under the Table. Kick me under the table all you want. I won't shut up. I won't shut up. It's like a huge middle finger to whoever was kicking her under the table. Um, and I guess I kind of like the really righteous pianos of the track. But really, that's just it, because as far as dynamic and progression goes, the track doesn't really progress all that much. We have the track Relay, which I actually like quite a bit. It's a really kooky track. It sounds like Hot Knife Part 2, and we get these repetitive chants. Evil is a relay sport, and the one gets burnt turns to pass the torch, and it sort of gets repeated over and over again. And I wish the track is a little shorter though, because when it's being repeated over and over and over and over again, it you know it can be annoying if it's too long. But I think the duration of the track is still somewhat reasonable. I love how the bass of the track just rises in tension. It's like it's about to explode. It's ear grabbing, and I really love the chorus of the thing. I resent you for being raised right, and yeah, I resent you for presenting your life like a fucking propaganda brochure. I also really enjoyed the next track, Rack of his, which takes a more bluesy and jazzy path. I really love the bold instrumentations after the chorus, and I really like the vocals as well. The next track, Newspapers, while instrumentally I don't think it's one of the best tracks on the album, I think the grim, quiet tone and the sad yet disturbing, somewhat disturbing lyrics on the track really fit well together, especially how this track is about this male figure in Fiona Apple's life who is being abusive towards her. Hopefully, she's not talking about anyone that I admire. But yeah, gotta love the expressive vocals on this track and how raw emotionally this track is. Next up, we have the track Ladies, which is also one of the highlights on the album. I absolutely love this track. The intro to the track where Fiona went, ladies, ladies, ladies. That was a really nice touch. But the instrumentals itself, while it's not as extravagant or explosive, it's actually very charming, groovy, and incredibly nice. And I also really love the beautiful, calming vocals, the lyrics about how women should not be this affected by their male counterparts' decisions, I guess. And I thought it was a bit of a good moment. It was a good moment on the album, not gonna lie. And for the track Heavy Balloon, while I don't really enjoy it all that much the first time I heard it, it did grow on me quite a bit. It's a very Tom Waitsy song, not gonna lie. We get this dense, sweet bass line in the back that's kind of quiet. We get this simplistic 4/4 drum kick, and we get the chorus, which is really raw and angry and aggressive. I spread like strawberries. I climb like bees and beans. The track Cosmonauts is also a pretty fantastic song in my opinion. It's lovely, it's nice, it feels spacey in a way. It's stargazing and beautiful and elegant. The chorus is really nice as well. The way the tension is being built up and released is quite gorgeous, not gonna lie. But then immediately afterwards, the album ends off at a really weak note, in my opinion. The last three tracks really didn't work out for me. The track For Her, while I do appreciate the bitter lyrics on the track, the very kooky, jumbled percussion, and the very messy transitions do not really add to the eccentricity of the track, but more so to the level of annoyance to the track. It just sounds like Fiona Apple was trying too hard to sound zany and kooky on this track. I mean, it worked totally fine on the track Relay and Shameika because in those tracks, Fiona Apple perfectly balances between the eccentricity and the actual legitimate good songwriting and good chord progression. But on For Her, I can't really find any chord progression really, and it just sounds really incoherent. And in the middle of the track, we get this droning vocal passageway, which I don't really know what is it for. It doesn't really add anything to the track either. The next track, Drum Set, is just an okay slow song. Again, we get some raw percussion, raw vocal harmonies, and really not all that much other than that. And the album ends off with On I Go, which is a bit of a stale track, even though it's okay, it's not bad. It just sounds like Hot Knife Part 2. It just sounds like Hot Knife Part 2, except less, I guess, interesting and eyebrows raising, more cluttered and more messy. But still, I enjoyed a majority of this album. I think Fiona Apple still has a pretty great pen game. Her lyrics on this album, fantabulous. Her vocals are expressive and powerful. But I just think the production on this album is a little messy at times, and the very raw, kooky, zany style just doesn't work out all the time. But still, again, I like this album. Okay, I like this album. Don't hate me. I think my favorite track here is the opening track, I Want You to Love Me, or Shameika, but I Want You to Love Me. And my least favorite is For Her. I am giving Fiona Apple's Fetch the Bolt Cutters a like to decent 8 out of 10. So, have you listened to the latest Fiona Apple album, Fetch the Bolt Cutters? Not vegetable cutters. Vegetable butter. Nope. Like if you like it, hey if you hate it, then subscribe if you want more, and thanks for watching. It's been a while since I've set these lines, so I'm a little rusty. Yeah, anyways, I will be reviewing a lot of albums in the future. Tomorrow I'm gonna review Sam Hunt, and then Car Seat Headrest, and The Strokes, Black Dresses. I'm gonna do a couple classic album reviews. I will not reveal what albums will I be reviewing. I am also going to be reviewing Laura Marling, Little Pimienta, Dope Body, EOB, Ed O'Brien. I will be reviewing, of course, I will be reviewing Nicholas Jar and Eve Toomer, and also a bunch of other albums. Quelly Chris, and Chris Keys, Drake, and yeah, Nav. Sure, why not?